don't know if this is the right place to. I'm at home, and one of my children is. How old is the child? Like 10 months. And why do you believe the child's deceased? I have no idea. We just woke up and she's dead. All right, so tell me exactly what happened. Put her down yesterday. Went in the room to get her up this morning, and she's dead. All right, tell me exactly why you think it's deceased. I don't know. So why do you think it is? I don't know. I'm going to need a description, sir. Why do I think she's dead? Yes, because she's not breathing and there's no heart.
At around 12:06 p.m. on August 2, 2018, Seth Welch made this chilling 911 call in Grand Haven, Michigan. In an unnervingly calm and detached tone, he informed the dispatcher that he had just discovered his 10-month-old daughter, Mary Anne, dead in her crib. When the dispatcher asked how long ago he had discovered his daughter, Seth's response raised several red flags.
It's about an hour and a half. I was waiting. I called my lawyer first thing to ask, what's the next thing I should do. And they said, wait till they're here to call, the police and get that going. Basically, it got to the point where I was waiting so long, I just kind of went ahead and did it anyway. And we're almost here. So I was waiting on legal counsel. So you found the child an hour and a half ago? Yeah. And called your lawyer first, correct? Yes.
How did Seth remain so calm in such a horrifying situation? Instead of panicking or seeking immediate help, he appeared disturbingly composed, prioritizing a call to his lawyer over dialing 911. When asked if he thought his daughter was already beyond saving, Seth's response was shockingly cold.
Do you believe she was beyond help already? Oh yeah, she was dead at the door now.
Before ending the call, the dispatcher informed Seth that a couple of deputies from the Grand Haven Department of Public Safety and paramedics were on their way. In an attempt to assess his emotional state, the dispatcher asked Seth how he was holding up. His response, however, was as unsettling as the rest of the call.
Come out there and talk to you guys. How are you holding up? Yeah, just another day, right? It is what it is.
When paramedics and police arrived, they were confronted with a deeply disturbing scene. The house was filthy, crawling with bugs and flies, and mouse droppings were scattered throughout. To make matters worse, mold had spread across various surfaces, adding to the horrifying conditions. Mary Anne Welch's condition was even more heartbreaking. She was so tiny and weak that it was obvious she'd been terribly neglected. In fact, she was so skinny that the first responders initially thought she was just a newborn baby. She was lying on a disgusting, moldy mattress that was soaked with urine. Her tiny body was covered in bruises and painful bed sores, and her eyes were deeply sunken in. Everything about the house pointed to severe neglect. The awful condition of the home and the baby's heartbreaking state made it crystal clear that something was terribly wrong. Considering all the evidence uncovered at the house, Seth Welch and his wife, Tatiana Fusari, were brought to the police station in Kent County, Michigan, to answer questions about what had happened to their child. The couple was interviewed separately so that the detectives can expose areas where they may be lying or covering for the other person. The detectives began their investigation by first questioning Tatiana. To get a better understanding of the family situation, they started by asking her about the couple's 2 other children and their lifestyle on the farm. Tatiana met Seth Welch in September 2011 while studying early childhood education and development at Grand Rapids Community College. She described him as charming, engaging, and flirtatious. Their relationship moved quickly, and they started living together after just one date. They eventually married in March 2015. Seth and Tatiana had 3 young children: Elizabeth, who was 4 years old, Jason, who was 2, and baby Mary Anne, who was just 10 months old at the time of her tragic passing. Tatiana was also expecting their 4th child at the time. Seth grew up in a home where Christianity and its values were very important. Those beliefs continued to be a big part of who he was throughout his life. Even at his own home, Seth's faith was on full display. He expressed his beliefs through hand-painted signs, proudly displaying them on trees and the front fence for all to see. He also often posted videos on Facebook where he would read from the Bible, talk about his beliefs, and ramble against worldly things. Over time, Seth became increasingly fearful of a possible government collapse and doomsday scenarios. These fears led the couple to move to a farm near Cedar Springs, where they planned to live independently and rely less on the outside world. At first, the farm was meant to meet their family's needs, but after about a year they realized they needed money. This led to the creation of Blackacre Farm, where they grew a variety of produce and kept bees for honey, which they sold at the Fulton Street Farmers Market. Despite their efforts, the farm did not make much money. Sales were slow and they couldn't hire any workers to look after the farm. They handled all the tasks on their own. This was challenging, especially with young children to look after. Even while pregnant with Mary Anne, Tatiana brought her 2 older children, Elizabeth and Jason, to farmers markets 4 times a week from 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. Managing the children while dealing with customers was exhausting, and many days the money they made barely covered their travel costs. Seth and Tatiana then tried a you-pick strawberry business, which started to do better and gave them hope for the farm's future. The family had plans to expand it. When Mary Anne was 4 months old, Tatiana started working part-time at McDonald's during the evenings to help support the farm and their new venture. Later, she transitioned to full-time work. This left Seth in charge of caring for their 3 children, Elizabeth, Jason, and Mary Anne, while also managing the farm. Next, investigators questioned Tatiana about the children's medical history to understand their overall health and any past medical care they had received. A bad experience with doctors during the birth of her first child, Elizabeth, had made Tatiana distrustful of doctors and hospitals in general.
She was born, they wanted her out of the room. They wanted us there for 3 days because apparently I pushed out a lot more fluid than they were expecting. So she coughed. And I'm like, oh, we need to keep her for testing. And then I had to mix it because they just wanted to charge us more. I don't know. Conspiracy theory, yada, yada, whatever.
Yeah, you never know though, right?
Exactly,
right.
you don't. So I just think they wanted to keep us there for 3 more days, and then they wouldn't allow me to see her except to nurse, and then they were saying, oh, you can just give her food here, and don't worry, you can rest. I want to see my baby. And then they would have WIC come in and give me information, and then you want to have newborn portraits? No, can I just go home?
Right.
So we just didn't want any part.
So that just turned you off.
During his questioning, Seth echoed Tatiana's sentiments, expressing a deep distrust of the healthcare system.
I am very anti-medical industry is because of what happened with her birth. She coughed 1 time, and so they said that they had to keep her under observation for 72 hours to make sure she didn't have a breathing problem. She didn't have a breathing problem. She coughed 1 time to clear some birth fluid out of her lungs.
Right.
And they kept us under observation for 72 hours.
All while you're paying for it?
Of course, yeah, the bill was about $15,000. So, so that was kind of a kick in the rear.
A few years before Mary Anne's death, Seth had even shared an angry rant on Facebook criticizing doctors, vaccines, and other aspects of modern medicine.
I'm not opposed to medicine or doctors. I'm opposed to bad medicine and doctors that are just, that aren't really doctors. They're just they're almost just, they're priesthoods of the medical cult. They're priests of the medical cult. They have a certificate from some training camp somewhere that says, they got this test score, but that doesn't mean that they know about the human body and stuff like that. And further, they don't know really, they don't, because I'll put it, and I'll say why. I don't think you can be a good doctor if you don't believe in creation.
As a result of this distrust of the medical industry, both of Seth and Tatiana's other children, Jason and Mary Anne, had home births. Furthermore, neither child had ever seen a doctor or received any vaccinations since birth. The last time Elizabeth saw a doctor was when she was 2 years old. At that visit, the doctor suggested she wear a helmet to help shape her head.
At what visit, obviously it was probably the last visit, is when he recommended the helmet, the head shaping. But so there was never any concern about the shape of her head from 0 to 18 months?
No, that's why it was such a concern for us as to why he would just bring this up out of nowhere. And
so what was the problem with the shape of her head, according to him?
He said it was off. It was just not circular. And I mean, I wasn't offended. I was just taken aback. And then my Seth found out that it's commission based with these products that they try and push. So we don't know specifically. This is hearsay.
Right, sure.
But we think that
We'll
he
accept
was
it.
trying to push the helmet. It was a $3,000 helmet.
When Seth and Tatiana refused to get this helmet for Elizabeth, the doctor called Child Protective Services on them for neglecting the care of their child. Previous run-ins with CPS also came to light as questioning continued.
CPS person, and the copy of the paperwork he gave to us said she was fine. So, so that That was about my last straw with it.
Was that to do with the helmet? And is that
Yeah.
so it all started with, if I'm right, it all started with the helmet.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean,
Well, it all started with the cough, but to the helmet.
I'm not a big fan of a lot of the immunization stuff, and so I kind of balked against that, and they didn't like that either. They even got to the point where they, the first time we changed doctors, they called CPS on us just for changing doctors, because the doctor we were seeing was all the way in Byron Center from Cedar Springs. So they called CPS on us because we changed doctors and didn't give them enough notice.
The investigators later found out that Child Protective Services first became concerned with the home of Seth Welch and Tatiana Fusari as early as 2014, when presence of THC was found in the system of their newborn daughter Elizabeth, but nothing further was done at the time. Somehow the couple managed to avoid any serious scrutiny after each CPS complaint, slipping through the cracks in the system. Building on this troubling history, investigators shifted their focus to Mary Anne's daily care routine. The condition of her body, along with the messy state of the Welch home, raised questions about whether her basic needs were properly met. Mary Anne Welch was born on October 23, 2017. Although she was always petite, she was a healthy and active baby, hitting her developmental milestones.
Yes,
Okay.
she was always able to hold her head up on her own. But it was a little rocker chair, not a bouncy chair, I'm sorry. So she would lean back in it, and you put batteries in it, and it rocks on
Oh,
itself.
yes. Yeah.
Yes, and
Okay.
developmentally as well. I mean, she was...
And she was doing real well developmentally.
Yeah, she was already putting her hands on the floor and just looking around. We have a play mat, and we give her tummy time. So especially on days where I have off, we'll just be playing all day, tummy time, and she'll be on her stomach, and she'll have her head up, looking around, watching the other kids play, or have table time, which is where they do their schoolwork. The cats would cuddle with her, which is adorable. She'd roll over on her back, and there's like a little balcony. I don't know what it's called. It looks like a rainbow, but it's over the head of the baby, and she can.
Oh, yeah, no things they dingle with.
Yeah,
yeah.
she reaches her arms up, and she'll grab at them and pull them down, and then like giggle at the sounds. Like she's
Okay.
interactive.
Okay. So you felt that she was developing good at that point.
Yes.
When Mary Anne was 4 months old, Tatiana returned to work at McDonald's, working short evening shifts from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. to support the family farm.
3 bottles.
Okay.
Because I was only doing 4-hour shifts at the time, just so they can see my work ethic. So I would do, I would leave 1 bottle out and then 1 bottle in the fridge. And I would the day and then put her down to bed before I left. And that was at 7 o'clock.
On a typical day, what time in the morning would be your first feeding with her?
At that time?
At that time.
Maybe 5,
A.M.
3:30, 3:30, and
Okay.
then...
So at
5
3:30
again.
she would wake up, and would she do a full feeding?
Yes. Although she would fall asleep. So I'd wake her up.
You just keep
make
nudging
sure
her.
she was full, yeah.
And when now typically speaking at 3:30 when you woke her up, would she need a diaper change as well?
No,
Okay,
she
so
wouldn't. Because she was up at midnight before that, eating.
so the last feeding for the night would be midnight. Well, let's just start at 3:30. That'll give us a good time frame. So at 3:30 there'd be a full feeding, and her diaper was fine. No pee, no poop. She's good.
Yeah, she was fine.
So then, when would be the next feeding?
Between 5 and 6. And that's when I would change her.
And would that be another full feeding?
Yes.
Okay.
And I would change her then, and then
And when you changed her then, it would be due to
urine.
urine.
And then the kids would be up too, and then so I'd leave just to be awake with the kids, and the kids would have breakfast while Mary's either eating or sitting in her little bouncy chair looking around.
So the next feeding, we have a 5 to 6 time frame. The next feeding would have been when, about
8 to 9.
8 to 9.
Yeah, she would feed every 2 hours, on average.
Another full. Every feeding was a full feeding.
Yes, she was. Yes.
Investigators were primarily searching for any unusual gaps or inconsistencies that might provide insight into what had occurred. As Mary grew older, her routine changed. By the time she was 6 months old, she had started sleeping through the night and was introduced to solid foods alongside breastfeeding.
at 6 months, have you done a diet change?
She, fruit, mashed up fruit, vegetables mixed with breast milk, so the vegetables include whatever we were growing, which were peas, spinach. We got organic carrots from the store. That was a little fibrous, so I mixed it in with some peas. The fruits were blueberries, strawberries, apples, raspberries. She liked the raspberries.
So when you mix it in with breast milk, explain what do you mean by that?
Oh, so I would pump some milk in a bottle, and then we have a juicer or a blender, so I would blend the vegetables. So for example, let's do spinach.
Okay.
I blend the spinach in there with a little water, and then I pour the breast milk in there, just so it was easy for her to swallow, like oatmeal.
So then she eat it with a spoon or out of a bottle?
A spoon.
Okay.
It was solid enough for either Seth or I to feed her with a spoon.
So now, at 6 months old, was she using a bottle at all anymore?
No, she didn't need to. She was still nursing.
She was still nursing?
Yes.
Okay.
During his questioning, Seth also talked about feeding Mary Anne while Tatiana was at work.
And then she'd throw something in it, maybe breast milk, to make the vegetables more palatable. Whatever that word is. Palatable. Yeah. And then she would make like a little fruit smoothie, maybe some blueberries, some bananas, like that. And then she did say that, potatoes and stuff like that. When did you guys start with her on solid foods?
It's been a couple months now. Since the beginning of summer.
Okay.
I would want to say maybe since.
Even though both parents claimed they focused on Mary Ann's diet, she struggled to grow and stayed underweight for her age. Still, Seth and Tatiana were not overly worried, since both of their other children had also been petite and didn't fully fill out their clothing width-wise until they were about a year old.
When she was growing, so now at 6 months, was she wearing 6T? Was she wearing age-appropriate size diapers?
Lengthwise, yes, but she wasn't filling them out widthwise. So she was wearing her 3 to 6 month clothing.
And how do you feel about weight size? Was she okay, or was she?
I was a tad concerned, but then I remembered. I'm a mom, so I'll just worry about anything.
Sure.
But then I remembered Elizabeth and how petite she was then, and how she would fill in lengthwise, but not widthwise until she was about a year.
So what was your tad concern? What was that? Was she just not gaining enough weight, or was that the concern?
It was possibly. It was just. I think what got to me was seeing like other babies just so chunky and always hearing like, oh, she's so small, and I was like, yes, she's premature, she's petite. Leave it alone, you know. And then also I forget, like, all these babies are formula fed, and there's nothing against formula. Sometimes mothers need to do it, but the formula is what chunks up the baby quickly, and I just didn't do that. So then I got it out of my head. It was just a little.
So you had a little bit of a concern due to her weight, but not her length. But you weren't overly concerned. You got it out of your head because you realized that she's fine. And
I was being a little vain, I suppose.
Well, we all can do that.
However, things seemed to improve when Mary Anne experienced a growth spurt at 6 months old.
So when you say growth spurt, did she get much longer?
Yes, and much fuller.
So she got chubbier?
Her cheeks did.
Okay.
And she was filling into her clothes better. I mean, I was excited to put her in a new outfit.
So when you say her cheeks got chubbier, would you then describe her cheeks if you were to look at her as a baby and say, she got chubby cheeks, or just chubbier than they once were?
Chubbier than they once were.
Okay. And she got longer?
Yeah.
And so she was born at 20 inches. What did you, I don't know if you measured or not, but what would be your ballpark as to what she sprouted out to?
Maybe another 2 inches.
Okay. What's the most you ever had her weighing that you can recall?
12 pounds? 14 pounds? But it was a while ago because the cat got to it.
Okay, so she weighed 14 pounds at about what age?
6 months.
6 months. Okay. And that was during, before, or after this growth?
Before the growth spurt.
Oh, so 14 pounds before the growth spurt, so you would what, as a mom, what would you guess her weight that she would have gained?
After the growth spurt,
Yeah.
maybe another 3-4 pounds.
So
Maybe not even. Let's go with 2.
2. And again, I'm just asking you to guess things that you don't know. I'm
Yeah.
really here nor there, but I'm just wanting to know just the kind of ballpark as of what you think at least. So you would guess her to weigh 16 pounds at the conclusion of her growth spurt.
Yeah, she definitely felt like it.
The reality, however, was very different from what both parents were trying to show. At the time of her death, Mary Anne weighed only 8 pounds. She was only 1 pound and 2 ounces more than when she was born 10 months earlier. This raised serious concerns, leading investigators to confront Tatiana and ask her some tough questions. They wanted to know the truth about what happened to Mary Anne, and they didn't believe the story she and Seth had told. They pushed her to be honest, hoping to uncover what really happened that night.
Tatiana, we're all parents in this room, okay? We all need to be honest. You remember in the car when I first talked with you, and I told you that at the end of the day, we all need to know exactly. Right? Okay? So we need to tell her story. Okay? And I want you to think about this for a minute. I want you to think for a second and put yourself in our shoes. You're the police officer. You're the police detective. You get called out to that home today. You get called to my home or his home today, okay? You, the police officer. And then you have to go into that house and you have to look at that precious little angel, okay? Do you think she was healthy, honestly?
When you look at her size, and you can see every single bone in her body, do you think she was healthy?
We know this isn't easy, Tatiana, but we need to know what happened to her. What was going on?
But when did she start losing all that weight?
For the past 2 days.
But she's lost so much weight that you can't lose that much in 2 days. I've never seen a child that skinny. Never. And here's the thing. You're obviously a very concerned mom, but at what point did you know, what point did you think something was wrong? Because I know that you knew something, or you thought something wrong. You are an intelligent, educated woman. And at some point, you felt something was wrong.
Maybe it was just delusional hope that she was getting bigger and our cheeks were getting fuller and she was just so happy and playful. And then just these past couple days.
So at what point did she can't even weigh 8 pounds right now. She doesn't weigh 8 pounds. When's the last time that you actually inspected her, that you looked at her? Tell me the truth.
Every time when I change her, and I think I just may have been just so blinded, and I just...
What were you blinded by? Because I know, listen, you are an intelligent, articulate, college-educated, early childhood development. You know when you look at someone that something's wrong. I have a picture of her right here. I'm prepared to show you. That tells you no medical treatment. As dumb as I am, I'm not near as intelligent as you. I can't speak the words you can speak. I am not you. And even I can look at this photo and I can say, whoa, something's wrong. It put tears in our eyes when we walked in there. It was that obvious.
Tatiana, I'm going to be quite honest with you right now, okay? One parent to another, right? And I'm going to try and control my emotions, all right? I've been to a child death investigator school, and I've seen photos and images of children that have been malnourished. And I'm telling you right now, this is the worst thing I've ever seen.
Oh no, really?
Yes.
2 months before Mary Anne passed away, both Seth and Tatiana started to become concerned about her weight. They put Mary Anne on a high-protein and high-calorie diet in an effort to help her gain weight.
So, at what point did you guys become concerned about her weight?
Okay, so it's always kind of been there. It's always been something that we've watched. However, it never seemed to cause, because it never did. But I just know you guys are watching my words, so it never caused her. Let's put it this way: she never was sickly in any way, slow, lethargic. No health indicators that said anything was wrong, other than that she was skinny, which I just didn't let it get to me, because, like I said, very skinny. She started putting on weight recently. We really started pounding the solid food down in the last month or so. Really making sure she gets some chicken, potatoes, cheese, stuff like that.
So when you started putting the high proteins, how recently was that?
A month or two.
Okay.
And
because that's what Tatiana said, is that probably the last month or two is when you guys actually became a little concerned about the weight.
Yeah, but I kind of was like, because my mom's always been honest about it. Always.
She's always on you. Get some food in this kid.
Yeah, she always says, yeah, what are you guys feeding him? Mom, go look at the garbage. I mean, I can't feed the kid enough.
Right.
She just.
When was the last time your mom was on you about it?
But here's the thing. Here's the thing. The last time my mom said something about it, she said that she. Wait.
Oh, okay.
So that's why.
So you thought you were in the right direction. When was that?
Last week, Sunday.
Not this last Sunday, the one before that?
Yes.
Okay.
Even Mary Ann's grandmother noticed the baby wasn't thriving. She advised Seth and Tatiana to take her to a doctor.
Because my mom's always been honest about it. Always.
She's always on you. Get some food in this kid.
Yeah, she always says, yeah, what are you guys feeding him? Mom, go look at the garbage. I mean, I can't feed the kid enough.
Right.
She just.
When was the last time your mom was on you about it? But
here's the thing. Here's the thing. The last time my mom said something about it, she said that she. Wait.
Oh, okay.
So that's why.
So you thought you were in the right direction. When was that?
Last week, Sunday.
Not this last Sunday, the one before that?
Yes.
Okay. And you were at your mom's, or she was at your place?
She was at our house.
And she thought that she was gaining weight?
She remarked that her cheeks seemed a lot fuller.
Okay.
I don't remember that specifically, so.
So a month or two ago, you two became concerned and started putting some proteins to her, some chickens and cheeses and whatever, just trying to bulk her up a little bit. And did you believe it was starting to work?
I seemed to definitely notice that she was getting heavier. Tatiana mentioned it to me. My mom mentioned it to me, so I would say yes.
So Tatiana thought she was getting healthier too, and that she was getting bigger? Okay.
Because she's always been growing long, she's just never put the meat, never put the meat on.
Right, yeah. So Tatiana, correct me if this is wrong, Tatiana said that, and it's kind of what you said, but especially about the last month, you guys became concerned that you started very consistently and regularly, heartily praying over, Lord, help her gain weight. Does that sound right?
I don't, she may have. I haven't really been so much.
Okay.
But I'm glad to hear she was.
Yep. So he said that his mom, starting about a month ago, has been telling him, I don't know if she told you, that child needs some medical care.
Yes, she has.
How many times has she told him that?
I don't know how many times she's told him.
How many times she told you that?
Once that I can remember.
Okay. And how long ago was that?
About a month ago.
Okay.
When I last saw her.
Now, he said that she was just at your house, not this last Sunday, but the Sunday before that. Yeah.
Oh. Maybe, because we went to Golden Corral, so it could have been a few days before that, and he could be mixing Sundays up.
Okay.
But it was definitely within the month. It's just, dates are a little...
So within the last... She was at your house?
Yeah, and
And
she
what-
still insisted on...
She still insisted on it. I mean, how many times has she insisted on it?
It was once that... I only recall one time. It could have been twice sometimes, because I may have brushed it off the first time she mentioned it. She's like, oh no, we're not going to the doctor. Just...
So that first time that you may have brushed off would have been how long ago?
I do recall, actually, when we went to her house. While she was eating, and then asked if I thought about the doctor. I told her, no, we're not worried about it, we're just praying about it. She said, okay. Well, her cheeks are looking fuller, so at least there's that. Just keep on feeding her.
She was saying that because of her weight.
Yes.
Have you guys discussed her weight with you before?
I only recall that being the first real time.
Okay. When was the second time?
When she came to visit, within the month. It says it was the Sunday before last. It may have been, and we could have went to Golden Corral the Sunday before.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter.
Okay.
And what did she say that time?
She suggested, instead of asked, if we were going to, she suggested that we noted that her cheeks are redder and fuller, so thought that she was taking her food well.
It was clear that something was very wrong. Mary Anne's care had been severely neglected by both her parents. Still, detectives chose to get the complete story from Tatiana before confronting her with the truth. They asked her to recount the events leading up to Mary Anne's death. 3 days before she passed, Mary's sleep schedule changed. She started sleeping for an unusually long stretch, from 7 p.m. to 9 a.m., and even after waking, she seemed unusually lethargic, wanting to go back to sleep shortly after eating. While Tatiana was concerned about Mary's sleeping so much, she thought the baby was going through another growth spurt.
But then she'd start to fuss because she wanted to go back to bed. She was just very tired, and she only likes to sleep in her bed. She'll sleep in the car or the truck, but...
So 3 days ago, did things happen enough that we could establish the routine? Was she on a 3-day routine? Like, we just established 2 different routines that she was on.
Mm-hmm.
Did she have a routine the last 3 days? Or
No, it was a bit erratic, because I would try and keep her up, just because I was worried that she was sleeping so much.
Mm-hmm.
But when she wanted to sleep, she wanted to sleep.
Was she eating?
Yes, very well. And the Sunday before last, we went to Golden Corral, and she just feasted. She really liked the marshmallow sweet potatoes.
So you thought this was a growth spurt, and is that because you noticed her growing again?
Yes, and I remembered with my other 2 children this.
So at 6 months, we were...
Yeah.
And so at this 9-month growth spurt, how much were you guessing her at then?
Maybe 20.
Okay. And when was the last time that you thought she was 20 pounds? Yesterday, okay. And yesterday, when you thought she was 20 pounds, how long would you have guessed her to be?
Her legs would wrap around my waist. She's quite long.
Because she was born at 20 inches, right?
Mhm. So her head here, and she would just wrap around the side there. So 26 inches maybe.
Okay.
Quite long.
The last time Tatiana physically interacted with Mary Anne was at 2:30 p.m. the day before she died. She fed her before leaving for work.
So the last time she would have ate would have been 1:30 yesterday in the afternoon?
No. I feed her again at 1:30, and then
What was that feeding?
nursing and some oatmeal.
How long was that nursing?
The nursing was about 20 minutes. The oatmeal was what took longer because she was about 8 ounces of oatmeal. And then I would, I think the kids were just still outside. I just, resting my feet before work because I'm just standing for 8 hours.
That was at 1:30?
Yeah. So then, 2:30 was when Mary would finish eating. So 2:30 was the end of it, and that's when I would change her diaper again and put her down.
When Tatiana returned home from work around 11:30 p.m., she went to check on Mary.
But then you came home at 11:30, and when you opened the door, you saw movement from her.
Mhm.
You're certain you saw movement from her?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. Or else I would have said.
Uh-huh. So,
Did you go any further into that room other than just looking through the door,
No,
the crack in the door?
I did not.
Was it the hole in the door or the crack in the door that you looked at?
It was a hole in the door. I didn't open the door completely. I just pushed it enough so it would make the noise. It's a very old, creaky door. So I pushed it enough. It makes the noise. It doesn't open the door completely. And she nudges because she hears it. And I just peek at her. I see her moving. And she's...
When you say that you saw her moving, how did you see her move? Can you describe that?
She was laying on her back still. Her blanket wasn't kicked off. And I only wrapped it right around the knees down to her feet to keep her feet warm. And she had her polar bear, but she likes to play with her polar bear before she goes to bed, so she kicked it off to the side. She was laying on her back. Her head was turned to the left side of it. So when I pushed the door open, she jerked her arm a little and turned her head. So I could see that her eyes were so closed. She was squinting a bit, like, what was that? And then it's okay, and that's what she does.
The morning Mary Anne passed away, Tatiana woke up around 7 a.m., but didn't check on Mary until 9 a.m., assuming she was still sleeping in. When she finally went to check, Tatiana found Mary unresponsive in her bed, with spit up on the side of her face.
So yesterday morning, when you got her up at 7, she had spit up?
No, this morning.
Oh, this morning.
At 9, when I got her up, when I tried to get her up.
Yeah.
I thought maybe she choked on her spit, and that's why.
What color was her spit up?
It was foamy and brown. So I thought maybe it was the oatmeal and the fruit mixed in there.
So where was the spit up at?
The side of her mouth, the side of her face.
And was that, did you think, I don't know, was it food? Was it blood?
No, it wasn't blood.
It was not blood?
No,
She didn't have any kind of vomiting of blood or anything like that?
No, never.
Okay.
We would have taken to her doctor if that
yeah.
ever happened.
So you were certain it was food?
Yes, because that's what...
And it was on her side, it was on what side of her face?
Her right side.
Her right side, okay. And then that's when you noticed that she was unresponsive? Was
Yeah.
this morning when you saw that? And what happened next?
Excuse me. Her eyes were open.
Did anything else look strange other than obviously the spit up and that her eyes were open? Or other than that, did she look as usual?
She's just cold.
Okay.
Panicked, Tatiana attempted to perform CPR on Mary in an attempt to revive her.
I started CPR and I did the 2-finger touch on the chest, just because if you use your whole hand you could break ribs, and I just didn't want to do that, that's for sure.
I know this is tough.
So I did a 2-finger touch on the chest and her back, and I wiped her mouth, and I did
So you did this
resuscitation.
on the kitchen table?
No, the changing table.
On the changing table in the bedroom?
Yes.
So you said you did it on her mouth and then you wiped her mouth.
I wiped her mouth first because it was the spit up. And now that I think about it, I think it was banana and oatmeal. You know when banana's been sitting out and it's very ripe?
Oh, yeah.
It gets that like brownish color.
Yeah.
But ripe banana's very sweet, and she eats the oatmeal better with it.
So what did you wipe her mouth with?
A baby wipe, a lavender scented baby wipe.
Okay. And then you did what with that?
I threw it in the garbage.
Okay.
Well, not immediately. No, I just
No.
wiped her and put it to the side,
Just wiped her into it now. Yeah.
right next on the changing table.
And then you picked her up out of the bed.
Yes, and then I put her on the changing table, and then when I was pumping her chest, there was like bubbles, bubbles coming out of her mouth.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought maybe that's why I thought she choked, and then maybe if I kept pumping, like it would, like maybe it would come out, and then she'd like cough and wake up. So I just kept wiping the bubbles, and I was giving her air and giving her pumping with my fingers, just my 2 fingers.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I should have done more.
Nope, you were doing it right.
And she was still so cold, and I think maybe 10 minutes, it's so hard to gauge time.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Most parents would be terrified if their child suddenly stopped breathing. They would immediately call 911 for help, but Seth didn't do that. Instead of calling 911, he called his own parents first to get legal advice.
Jason and I have been doing this a long time, and I understand, and I've seen it time and time again, everybody deals with stress and reacts to things differently. But if there's one thing that I've seen in the course of doing this job for a long time is there's usually never a hesitation to pick up the phone and call 911. That is a pretty ingrained, rapid, basic, life-saving response that is ingrained in everybody, especially in our country because of our emergency medical system that we have.
When did you first teach your kids about 911? When did you first teach your children about 911?
Less than a year ago.
Okay. So when you're doing CPR, you don't scream to Seth, call 911.
No, and I know that that's like the second step, or the first step actually. What?
Did you think by calling 911 that he would think your faith was less?
No, not at all actually.
Okay.
He called his dad first.
In fact, Seth and Tatiana waited for more than 3 hours before calling 911. And what's even more unbelievable, they used that time to tidy up the house a bit, because Seth's mom was very picky about cleanliness. The investigators further pressed Tatiana, seeking answers to a crucial question. Why didn't she and Seth seek medical help for Mary Anne, even though they knew something was wrong?
All I want to know is what stopped you from seeking help? You knew something was wrong. What stopped you? Tell us the truth.
I mean, are you guys that financially strapped? I mean, what is it? Do you not believe in healthcare? Do you have religious beliefs? I mean, what is it?
We do have religious beliefs, and we were praying about it, and we have faith that.
When did you start praying about it?
I mean, when she was born, but consistently and heavily the past 4 days.
So 4 days ago, you started praying. What were your prayers?
Please help her gain weight. She's eating. Why isn't it sticking? She ate so much.
But so why
wouldn't it stick?
I have a strong faith as well, a very strong faith, and I think God answers prayers. I'm with you on that. I also think God puts people in places to help people, but we all have our own beliefs. But here's what I'm saying is that you guys knew enough was wrong to start heavily and consistently praying. Why didn't we seek help? You knew.
I just didn't.
No.
I didn't say anything to Seth.
Seth had to know. He doesn't ever hold her?
Yes, but he was also very faithful and trust in God and trust that it would be okay, and didn't think we needed to bring her to a doctor.
You knew.
How long did you know this?
What the condition? It doesn't happen in 3 days. It doesn't happen in 4 days.
I think I just deluded myself. I just didn't want to believe that.
So when did you delude yourself? When did you start? When did this condition start?
I think within a month it started to become, it was a bit up and down. Her cheeks would be full and bright, and then a couple days later she would look ill or hungry, and then, or not hungry, just her cheeks wouldn't be as full as they were.
Shrunken in.
Yeah, and then.
So when did you notice that she had all her bones showing?
About a month.
About a month ago.
Let me ask you this. When was the last time you bathed her?
Maybe 2 weeks ago.
So about a month ago, you noticed that her bones are all showing, right? And so, is that when you started heavily praying?
No, it was the past few days, because about a month ago it would be like full, and then 2 days later it would be sunken in, but then within the day it'd be full again. But then the past few days it wouldn't fill up as quickly as it did.
But listen, here's what I'm saying, Mary. Listen, I get that, but her legs were as small as my pointer finger. So that didn't happen in 3 days.
No.
And I know that you know that, and I know that you wanted to get her help, but I'm trying to just figure out, when did this happen? I understand that maybe you started seeing some kind of symptoms a month ago, but when did she consistently lose all of this weight? When did she consistently become skin and bones?
I think it was within the month.
So
she was always just so thin, and
so within a month. So then why, when we had a month to look at her like this, why didn't we get help?
We thought she'd get better without getting help.
How did you think she was going to get better?
By feeding her and being with her.
Was she really truly eating the way that you were telling us?
Yes.
Because if you want, he has a photo of her, and if you want to see it, I mean, I'm pretty sure that I explained this to both you and Seth when you were in my car with me. There's going to be an autopsy done, okay? And there was a person from the medical examiner's office at the house, okay?
So we're gonna know all this, what we're saying.
Yeah.
But, and you're not a bad person. We get all this, and we get that there's a dynamic here that we're trying to figure out. There is a dynamic here. I'm gonna tell you, I know it. I know there's a dynamic, and I feel that you wanted to get her help. I'm trying to just figure out why you didn't. What's the dynamic? What am I missing? Because you can't tell me that this Brooklyn, New York, this New York college, city college educated, Grand Rapids Community College, early childhood person didn't know that this girl needed help, but something stopped her. I'm trying to figure out what it is. What stood between you and help?
Tatiana finally revealed that 2 factors had kept them from seeking medical care for Mary Anne: their religious beliefs and the fear of another Child Protective Services investigation.
I think I was worried about another CPS call from the doctors, and I thought that Mary would get better and it would be okay.
But at what point did you get better?
About 2 days ago. No, 3 days ago. 2 days.
So 2-3 days ago you thought she wasn't going to get better, so then why didn't we call then? What?
Because I thought that I was being doubtful, and
You thought you were being doubtful of Christ?
Yes. I thought I was lessening in my faith, and I just...
Is that What Seth thought, Joe?
That I was being doubtful.
No, I want to know, out of you two, which one of you wanted to go to take her to the doctor?
I know he didn't, and I didn't for a long time, until recently it just became a little thought in my head that maybe we should, and then I was worried about CPS and about just losing faith. We've had issues with CPS before, and I just didn't want to lose this kid.
So you thought you were losing faith by thinking you needed to go to the doctor?
That I wasn't having faith in God to fix this.
Mm-hmm.
I feel stupid about it now.
That's what we're trying to figure out. Do you think? And I'm not ridiculing this. I just want to know. Do you guys think that God doesn't want us to use doctors?
No.
So do you think God puts people in places to help us?
Yes, I do. I believe that for sure.
And you think doctors could be those people?
Yeah.
So, all still, I get what you're saying, but this is what I'm telling you. 2 days ago, I could have looked at this child and I could have said, this child has hours to live. Two days ago, I could have looked at this child and I probably would have thought, this child has minutes to live. 2 days ago, if I'd have seen this child in your hands, being a stranger at Mary, I'd have snatched this child out of your hands and faced the consequences. That's what I'm trying to reason with, is that but you didn't receive the help, and you knew that 2 days ago, you just said that she was probably, what did you say, beyond help, or whatever it was 2 days ago. So what?
It's not beyond help.
At what point in this illness did you think there's a good chance she's going to die?
I didn't think at all that she was going to die.
How could you not think that?
Delusional. I don't have a reason why I couldn't think that. I was just being such a hopeful mom. I suppose I don't have a good reason for you. I'm sorry.
Tatiana also doubted her own perceptions, suggesting she might have been delusional.
But 2 to 4 days ago, you knew it was really bad. Tuesday, you knew it was really bad. And so that is what prompted you more than ever to be checking and looking to make sure she wiggles when you move a door, and because of how she looks.
I did it every day regardless.
You did?
That matters.
Okay, yeah, it does matter, absolutely.
Every day, every night.
Nobody, Tatiana, for 1 second, I don't want you to think that anybody is trying to say that you didn't love your child.
No.
Okay? But I am going to be blatantly honest with you. You didn't provide the necessary care for your daughter. You didn't.
Do you think you did?
And we're just trying to figure out why.
Do you think you did right?
It's a very hard question to answer because she's dead. She'll know that I tried. I fed her so much.
But what stopped you? Truly, what stopped you?
From what?
From getting her help a month ago. Was it embarrassment? Was it fear? Was it? What was it?
I think it was fear of CPS. I think that I just thought that I was overreacting, and it was just all in my head because I tend to overthink things when it's not necessary, and I just thought there was another one of those.
Mm-hmm.
And our other two children are just so healthy, or am I delusional about that too?
I don't know. I
as far as they appear, I mean they.
What?
But here's the difference, though. You just said it right there. You just said it. As far as they appear, but we know it hasn't appeared healthy. So that it's not a delusion. It's an observation that your other two children clearly appear healthy, right? And clearly didn't. That's comparing apples and oranges. So it shows that your observations were working. You weren't delusional. You know that these two appear healthy and this one didn't. So we need to go get this one fixed. Figure out what's wrong with her.
Seth's distrust of the medical system also prevented them from taking Mary to the doctor.
I don't trust the medical system so much as other people. So when it says, oh, it needs to be this, the other, like I said, you know, I had a doctor tell me was mutant and needed a head-shaping helmet. I was told that she was underweight, fraudulently. I know how they work, and I know they're in business, and that healthy people don't make them any money.
So that kind of skewed your...
Yeah, it skewed the way, it changes the way that we do things a lot differently than most other people.
But looking at your daughter, looking back, you as a parent, as a father, didn't you have any concern for her, looking at her?
Yes, I did.
But you just didn't think it was concern that the medical field could fix?
One, I would say somewhat. Two, I was kind of more in that I have never encountered a health problem where basically if you don't do the right things and be patient, that it works itself out, especially with the kids. I get as we get older, there's other things. I was not happy about how thin she was, but I also, you know, have the belief that, you know, God didn't make us all, you know.
The same.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of chalked it up to that. I was not happy about how skinny she was. Just like, if you look in the house, you can see all the baby food. That's potatoes with chicken and cheese, and everything matches up with what I'm saying. I guess
Did your parents...
She was always very healthy. She was never sick.
She acted that way. So.
Yeah, so it never, if she had been sickly in any way, it would have been, okay, that's it. She's sickly and skinny. But she was always just skinny.
But Seth, that's where I'm going to disagree with you. Okay? I'm a parent. I'm a father. I have 3 children.
Mm-hmm.
He's a father. You're a father.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And I'm just being honest with you. Okay? Because I don't know how to be anything other than. Okay? And I'm telling you right now, I've been doing this job for a long time. Okay? And he'll tell you when I walked in that bedroom today, all right, I started crying. Okay? I looked at that little baby, and I looked at her for a millisecond,
Mm-hmm.
and I knew that she wasn't right. And I knew that she wasn't right for some time. Okay? And you're her father.
Yep. And I'll tell you, I saw her when she was dead too. She was much more gaunt when she was dead than she ever was when she was alive. I mean, I got pictures on my phone. I'm.
Yeah.
Right, but let me ask you this: when's the last time you saw that baby without any clothes on in a bath?
Me, I've never given her a bath.
Okay, but you changed her diaper
Mm-hmm.
maybe a day and a half ago, correct?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not putting words in your mouth. You said that, correct?
Mm-hmm.
How did you not, when you looked at her a day and a half ago changing her diaper, and realize that my daughter is skin and bones? When I looked at her belly in the house, okay, and I'm not exaggerating this.
Oh, I know.
I could see the outline of her intestines through her stomach. I could see her spine completely through her back. I could see every one of her ribs through her chest.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, like I said, I'm not happy about it either. You know, you're welcome to go through my garbage and look at the baby food containers, and
Seth, here's the thing. I'm certainly not knocking on his faith. I have the same faith in the same creator that you have. Does your faith prevent you from allowing you to use medical services?
No.
So you would use medical services, or you would not? So it's just your experience that prevents you, not your faith.
No, in some ways, like for example, on the immunization, it started out with a rational concern. But yeah, faith-based, you'd have to strap us down to a table and put it in there.
Okay. Does that apply to your children too?
Yes.
Okay.
On August 3, 2018, an autopsy was performed on Mary Anne, revealing the heartbreaking truth about her final days. She had died from malnutrition and dehydration, a direct result of neglect by her caregivers. Her death was officially ruled a homicide. Based on the interviews, the evidence found in the home, and the autopsy findings, Seth and Tatiana were arrested on August 3, 2018. 2 days later, the Kent County Prosecutor's Office formally charged them with felony murder and child abuse in the first degree.
That you're both charged with what they call felony murder while in the perpetration or attempted perpetration of child abuse in the first degree. They're alleging that you murdered one Mary Welch. That is a charge called homicide felony murder. It is life without parole. It requires a DNA sample to be taken upon arrest, which is often like a cotton swab or in the inside of your cheek. The second offense that you're both charged with is called child abuse in the first degree, where they're alleging you knowingly or intentionally caused serious physical harm to a child. They're talking about this Mary Welch. It is a felony, possible penalty of up to life imprisonment or any term of years less than life.
They were sent to the Kent County Correctional Facility to await further legal proceedings. Both defendants underwent psychiatric evaluations and were found competent to stand trial. Despite this, Seth's attorney informed the court of their intention to pursue an insanity defense for him, suggesting his mental state may have played a role in the events leading to Mary Anne's death. Meanwhile, Tatiana sought an independent review of her medical records. Her defense aimed to investigate whether she had contracted a parvovirus, a condition that can cause dehydration, and whether it might have been passed to Mary Anne, potentially contributing to the infant's severe health issues. Seth Welch was the first of the two parents to face the jury on charges of felony murder and first-degree child abuse. His trial began on January 22, 2020, at the Kent Circuit Court in Michigan. Assistant prosecuting attorney Kim Richardson told the jury that Seth had essentially imprisoned Mary Anne in her filthy crib and didn't provide her with the basic care she needed to survive.
Her crib mattress was torn. It was soaked through with urine to the point it pooled in a baby tub underneath her crib.
How would you feel? You are imprisoned in yourself because you don't have the energy to move. She didn't have the energy to even put up her arms, and she didn't have the energy to cry.
They also heard the chilling 911 call Seth made after finding Mary Anne.
You believe she was beyond help already? Oh yeah, she was dead as a doormat. How are you holding up? You know, it's another day, right? You know, it is what it is.
Even more disturbing was the fact that Seth didn't call 911 right away after finding Mary Anne unresponsive. Instead, he first called his parents, who are lawyers, to ask for advice. He waited over 90 minutes before finally calling 911. During that time, he texted someone about selling a goat, and even searched online about the kidnapping of rapper Tekashi 6ix9ine. The state prosecutor also said that Seth saw his own daughter Mary Anne as an inconvenience. As proof, the jury was shown several abusive text messages that Seth had sent to his wife, complaining about their baby daughter. Richardson emphasized that Seth knew his baby girl was getting sicker and sicker, but he simply chose to do nothing about it. He let his daughter die because he thought she was too small and weak to be useful on the farm he wanted to have.
Tell me you didn't know that. And don't tell me you didn't intend that because you didn't get her little tush out of that crib. You left her in there. You ignored her because she was an inconvenience.
To prove that Seth's fear and distrust of medical care was not genuine, the prosecutor highlighted that Seth had no problem getting medical help for himself while he was in jail. Presenting his case, Seth's lawyer, Charles Clapp, said that Seth didn't do anything wrong intentionally. He was overwhelmed by his responsibilities. He asked the jury to find Seth guilty of less serious charges.
And Seth is at home with 3 children, trying to do farm work, trying to take care of the house, trying to be a father, and he just can't do it.
But the prosecutor, Kimberly Richardson, disagreed. She reminded the jury about the pictures they saw of the house.
You saw the pictures of the house. He's not working on the house. He's not cleaning. He's not working in the fields because they're all overgrown. What is he doing that he is so overwhelmed?
While he declined to testify during the trial, Seth gave a jailhouse interview to Wood TV 8 in August 2018, in which he defended his actions.
I believe I'm being unfairly charged and being made an example of for my very strong faith.
So, are you saying that you had no idea before this that something was wrong with Mary?
No, she was a skinny girl. But everybody in my family's always been skinny. I know it's hard to believe with our current condition. My middle daughter, Elizabeth, of this marriage, was a very skinny girl when she was growing up, and now she's bigger than some 6-year-old boys. So I didn't really think anything of it. In the Bible, it says that good food is our medicine, so we fed her. We were feeding her chicken, potatoes, apples, cheese. I mean, we were giving her the good stuff, and then also combined with breast milk, and she died. It's a tragedy. Yes, we did the best we could for Mary according to our faith. We fed her good food. We gave her water. We gave her lots of love. She passed.
Do you think there's anything that you did wrong here?
No.
Did she look like, that she was at risk of starving to death?
No.
You're saying she looked like
if
a normal baby?
If it was that drastic, we would have done something. We would have at least found a doctor who would be willing to practice, things in a way that is compatible with our beliefs. But no, we did not think that she would perish. I mean, you have to understand, sir, she didn't have like a history. When people starve to death, they get sick. She wasn't crying. Like I said, we checked on her periodically through the night. And every time she's cried, she wakes us up, both me and my wife. My wife has radar for it. I mean, she's a tremendous mother, and we will provide many witnesses in our court case to attest to that.
She just died, sir. And we provided everything for her, and we have all the evidence to prove it. We have witnesses to prove how loving and caring of parents we were. And sometimes tragedies in this life happen.
Do you wish you would have done anything differently?
It's easy to play Monday morning quarterback, but then when I think, we did everything we could according to our beliefs to maintain her.
She didn't show any signs of being sick or on the edge of death. Of course, if there was something that I could come up with that I could have done to make sure that she was still here today, of course. I cry about this every single night. Our family had such a great life on our farm together, and it's all been torn apart. Daily pray that our family will be restored, that in court it will be shown that this was a tragedy, this was not a crime, there was no ill will involved, there was truly no neglect involved, especially if we're going to take freedom of religion into this. I don't fear the judgment of man because God knows how much I love that child. God knows the moments we shared together. People can revile and hate me for as much as they want. I know where I will stand in the end.
However, the jury did not buy this defense. They deliberated for just about 80 minutes before finding him guilty of murdering his 10-month-old daughter, Mary Anne. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
On the count of felony murder, count 1, guilty of felony murder as charged. On count 2, guilty of first-degree child abuse as charged.
Tatiana Fusari's trial began on October 14, 2020. During testimony in the trial, Tatiana told the jury her husband's abusive behavior kept her from protecting her baby. They went on only one date before they moved in together. After that, he quickly became demanding and controlling. He would often yell at her and assault her sexually. The abuse gradually got worse, and Tatiana didn't have anywhere to go because she had been isolated from her friends. Tatiana also told the jury that Seth performed an exorcism on her while she was pregnant with Mary Anne. She recounted how he read verses from the Bible while repeatedly hitting her.
Verses from the Bible as he was taking his open palm and smacking me in between my shoulder blades on the back over and over and over again, hard enough for me to keep flinching at every time he hit me. And he was just saying things like, "Demon be gone."
One night, when Tatiana woke Seth up to feel Mary kick when she was pregnant, he got extremely angry.
He got mad at me because I wouldn't let him sleep. So, he asked me what the was wrong with me, and he rolled over to face me, and he okay. He rolled over to face me, and he started punching me in the face. And then I tried to roll over onto my right side to face the wall, so he would just leave the front side of me alone, but he put his weight on me.
Tatiana also recounted the day she discovered Mary Anne unresponsive in her crib.
I walked over to her, and I saw that her eyes were open, but she wasn't responding to me. So I checked her pulse. I didn't feel anything. I went to go get Seth, and I told him, Seth, there's something wrong with Mary. There's an emergency with Mary.
However, Tatiana wasn't sure why her daughter had died.
I thought maybe she was ill, and I didn't know about it. I didn't know. We didn't take her. I wasn't allowed to take her to a doctor. If she had some sort of virus or some sort of... I did not know what was wrong with her.
Tatiana also said that Seth wouldn't allow her to take Mary to a doctor since he didn't trust them. Whenever she brought up doctors, he would become angry and abusive.
He said, you know what the I think about doctors. Do you want to keep bringing these people into our home? All you keep doing is bringing these government people into our home. You want to keep doing that? I told you Mary is fine. She's fine, now drop it.
Even though all the evidence showed that Mary Anne had been starved to death, Tatiana insisted that she had been feeding her baby.
You told Officer Holly that you had gave her oatmeal in the morning.
Yeah?
Do you still say that today?
Yes.
Even though, again, the autopsy stated she had not had any food for days, or solid food for days.
I know that I fed her and nursed her.
Despite all the evidence against her, Tatiana still maintained her innocence.
Did you love Mary?
Yes. Yes, I did.
Did you starve her to death? Did you kill her?
No. No.
However, the jury did not buy her emotional testimony. They found her guilty of felony murder and child abuse in the first degree. She was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. In addition to the life sentence, Tatiana Fusari was sentenced to a concurrent 15 to 30 years for child abuse, with credit for 1,102 days served. It is unlikely that Seth or Tatiana will ever take responsibility for their actions that resulted in the slow, cruel death of their innocent baby girl. The only glimmer of hope in this terrible situation is that Mary Anne's siblings, including the one born in prison, are now safe from their parents and won't have to endure the same suffering at the hands of monsters.
Think about today's case. Do you believe justice was served, or is there more to the story? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more deep dives into true crime cases, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update. And if you found this case as fascinating as we did, give this video a thumbs up. It really helps the channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.